Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to do another fanfiction review. I haven't done one of these in a while, and we're going to do something that's very funny. In the fairy tale fandom, there's like a joke about Max, the sand magic user, being in love with like a broom or something. Um, it's actually kind of funny, and like especially with the fanfictions that people have made about this, like this person did, which is called A Wooden Heart, a story of a love that was never meant to be. Ah, that's great. Let's begin. I never thought that the day I first met him was going to be particularly special. It had been the same old routine with sweet Mira Jane picking me up in the morning, cleaning the floors, and then it was back to the closet with the mop, the bucket, and my oldest friend, the dustpan. Honestly, in a guild like Fairy Tale, it was common for unusual occurrences to happen. But getting taken out before night was rare, so when the darkness of the closet lifted in the middle of the day, I was pretty shocked. Why doesn't Natsu ever have to clean? The boy was saying as he opened the door. Don't worry about Natsu, Max. He's getting his own punish. He'll be getting his own punishment, a haughty girl with red hair announced from behind the boy who now clutched me in his hand. Fine, fine, he muttered, dragging me out behind him into the main area of the guild. He began sweeping as he spewed out a few complaints underneath his breath, but I could hear 'em all. At the very least, he didn't have such a vulgar mouth, something that I'd appreciated. To be honest, the first thing I really noticed when he took me from the closet was how soft the sands were. They were smooth and soft, almost like imprints didn't exist among his skin, like he didn't have fingerprints. It was only when I realized my bristles were picking up sand that I understood he was the sand mage, one who had lost control of his attack and made a big mess into the guild hall. Yes, Urza did not like messes. It was no wonder why Max was stuck here with me. He started it, so I don't know why I have to clean it up. The boy whined some more, cleaning a corner of the room. Natsu always gets in the fights, but I hardly do, and I always get the short end of the stick. He paused in a sulky mood, glancing down at me gingerly before grinning to himself. Well, I guess you're not such a short stick. Were I a human, I would have laughed, because come on, that was punny. I don't get it. I honestly don't. Maybe I'm just dumb, but I don't get it. Fuck. However, I did not possess a mouth or a nose or anything of the sort that resembled a meat-consuming hole, so I could not laugh, but I did appreciate his sense of humor. I started to pay more attention to him because he was pleasant, even when he was grumpy. After that, Max was relatively quiet until he started humming. He kept it in tune most of the time, and I didn't recognize the song, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it even more that he was handling me with respect and care. He didn't slam my head on the ground in his anger, or even clutch my shaft with an inappropriate amount of force. The job that day was easy and didn't have to be endured. You know, sweeping is more relaxing than I thought it would be. It's actually kind of nice, Max commented casually as he had his eyes on the ground. Most of the sand seemed to be gathered together now, and it was time to grab the dustpan. All I could think of was that he was such a nice boy, and that I was immensely glad he was having a good time sweeping. After all, sweeping was my favorite activity, and I couldn't really take a liking to someone that harbored ill feelings for something as wonderful as sweeping. I was placed back in the closet, Max leaning me against the wall in a comfortable perch while he set down the dustpan next to me. Just before he closed the door, he gave a wide smile, glancing into my home for a moment. Getting in trouble? Wasn't so bad. Okay. Let's see what else happens. I didn't really get to see Max again until a couple years later when he was older, more handsome and more mature. I had seen him a few times when Mira Jane took me out to clean, but never close enough to actually observe how much he had grown. He couldn't have been more than 13 or 14 when he first picked me up, and now he looked like a fine young man. How did I know? Well, Max rambled enough about how he'd become the social event coordinator for the guild. Though we had only met once, I felt extremely proud. I don't even care that I have to stay up late to clean, he proclaimed as he swept the area around Kana's half-naked body. I'm just so glad that everything went so well. With the amount of beer left on the floor, it seemed inevitable that the mop was going to have a lot of work to do tonight, but I was absolutely taken by this wonderful sandwich that I didn't have time to feel sympathy for my friend Mop. His happiness was contagious, and I just wanted to wriggle my bristles so that I could do a little dance. Of course, we all know I couldn't, so I just had a good time collecting dust in the hands of Max Allors. I think that's how it's pronounced. I don't know. He was a great stick handler. I tell you, nobody locked their wrists like he did, nor did they touch my shaft in quite the same way. Oh, well, look at me going all fangirl for Max. You can't blame me though, right? Uh, I can kind of. I mean, you'd probably feel the same way had you been in my position. Nah, I don't think I would. Anyway, the night of cleaning was the first of many. Baruto continued to have events that were managed and organized by Max, most of which I could only conclude were quite fun considering the mess those people left behind. Really, though, I hardly minded the long, hard nights because I was able to spend more time with Max. He smiled all the time, told jokes, and made himself laugh as I laughed internally right along with him. Once again, once he was even cleaning my bristles and started singing I should shake my booty. I wasn't sure what a booty was, so I simply attempted to shake my bristles. In the end, Max had done most of the cleaning and I had not succeeded in shaking in anything, but he was too happy to care. I was always exhausted after night's long work, but Max made it all bearable. We had so much fun together that when the lights of the guild hall went out and the door to the closet closed, I couldn't wait to go to work again. I was just waiting for the door to open so we could sweep together once more. It was another late night when Max took me out to clean the guild hall in a rather solemn demeanor. He hadn't been himself for quite a long time, but I wasn't surprised. Everyone had heard about the disaster that had occurred during Fairy Tale's S-Class quest. Personally, as much as I like sweeping with Max, I also really miss sweeping with Mira. She had been a great company over the years. Unfortunately, I couldn't convey this to Max, so he was left feeling lonely during this late night. He seemed so worn down, like the weight of sorrow had eroded the spirit he'd so exuberantly exuded before the disappearance of so many in the guild. It ate at my wooden heart. Ah, she said it. She said it. Ah, I can't throw parties when nobody's happy. Even I don't remember how to be happy, he admitted, sweeping more roughly than usual. I didn't hold it against him, even if it hurt. He was hurting too, but doing this reminds me of how much fun we all used to have. His face broke out into a weak smile, a smile full of pain and despair of memories past. I loved cleaning up after events because everyone was together and everyone was so happy. But now it just seems so pointless. I wanted to tell him that it wasn't pointless, that he was wrong and that he wasn't alone. I wanted to tell him so badly, but all I had was a slightly splintered wooden shaft and a bunch of bristles that desperately needed to be cleaned. I didn't have arms to hold him, a voice to reassure him, or a hand to put in his. Max made me forget that I was a broom and that sweeping was work. He made me forget that all I could do was remind him of a lighter past. Now, all I wanted to do was console him and make it excruciatingly aware that I was just a broom. But out of everything, doing this is what gives me the most comfort, Max said softly as he stopped sweeping to look at me in his hands. Because it's you that keeps them alive for me. Every celebration ended with you, and every one of them remains with you. Then the room was quiet, save for the sound of my bristles brushing the floor. I wanted to cry then. I wanted to wail out all the agonizing pain that was coursing through me because Max hurt and his pain was mine. But yet again, I was just a broom. Just a broom that loved this man named Max. My God, why is this so serious? This is such a serious love. He's like, it's a broom. I honestly had no idea what was going on when I was suddenly yanked out of the closet by Max, but that quickly changed when the guild hall came into view. Chaos, a kind I hadn't seen in a long time. 7 years to be precise. People were fighting, people were drinking, and people were on the floor. It was a beautiful sight. Everyone was home. And well, it was clear Max was hammered because of this. Not that it would take much. The sand mage could be fully inebriated after only 2 mugs of beer, so basically, he was completely smashed and for some reason went to retrieve me from the closet. I was flattered, but kind of confused. I had never been taken out of my sanctuary during a celebration or party. Maybe the mop was sometimes, but to clean up the various spill hazards, but never me, the broom. What reason did Max have to bring me out now? I love his broom, Max proclaimed in a drunken slur. You know, when everyone was gone, this broom was all that kept me going. Some of the guild members looked at Macau quizzically, who shrugged. Hey, I can't watch everyone all the time. I got a kid too. Me and the broom. I love the broom. Max began to sing, dancing and taking off his shirt as he smothered me. I was rather bewildered and admittedly a bit flustered for a wooden stick. Stripping his case, Grace saw his signature, Juvia shouted in devastation. That's hilarious. I didn't know her very well, but she almost seemed offended by the fact that Max was moving his clothes in front of everybody. Max simply ignored her and continued to dance with me, twirling me from one hand into the other and somehow boogieing his pants and underwear off. Gross. I wasn't sure when it had happened, but the sandmage ended up stark naked while we did the waltz amongst the disorder that was occurring in the guild hall until he passed out on his face, butt high in the air with my shaft embedded right between his cheeks. Oh God, I love this so much. I bet that made him sound really gay, huh? But trust me, with the amount of time he spent leering at women in the hot springs, Max isn't gay, I swear. I am privy to the knowledge of all the breasts he'd seen to this day, despite the fact I ended up sticking out of his colon more than once. Wait, so is the broom a guy or a girl? I am so confused. I'm glad he at least had the consideration to clean the tip of my handle, as I was not exactly fond of fecal particles. Oh God, this is great. Of course, none of this was really the point of why this part is the story is significant, but bear with me. I was glad everyone was home. Reuniting with Mira was actually one of the happiest moments of my life. But what was even better was that I didn't go back to the closet that night. In fact, I didn't go back to the closet into the closet for a long time. Max took me home that day, which was an odd journey considering that I'd never been outside. I can't say if the air was chilly or warm, as I was particularly insensitive to temperatures, but it was moist and I didn't really enjoy it the way it was affecting my grain. Max's hand felt sticky against me, something that had never happened within this light touch before. It wasn't something I cared to experience again, but I would do it if it was for Max. When we got to his apartment, I couldn't help but admire the ambiance of his place. Quiet, calm, and relaxing. All things Max when he was in solitude. I don't know what that means, but okay. He placed me against his bed as he got ready to sleep, leading me on the side of his headboard. Before he turned out the lights, he glanced at me, smiling softly. You know, I can't help but feel like this is all a dream, that everyone's actually home. But when I got you by my side, I remember that this is reality. It's like you chained me to this world. You keep me on Earthland when I want to go away, he chuckled, maybe a little embarrassed of himself. It's a funny thing to be so attached to a broom. He didn't say anything else as he turned off the light. But he didn't need to because it was a funny thing to be attached to a broom. We didn't have any other purpose other than to sweep. I was an object and he a man. We were never meant to be. And yet here I was in his home, next to him where no one else ever had been. No one. Huh. Love is such a bittersweet thing, especially when it's bitten by irony. As I said before, being outside was not my favorite thing, but Max started bringing me to every place he went except on missions. It almost seemed like if he didn't have me nearby, he thought that everyone who had come back would disappear. Maybe that's what he thought. He never actually let me know. All I knew is that I spent time in places that I had never been in before, and I got to experience it all. My favorite person ever. So did he take you to like amusement parks or restaurants? Did he get you like that milkshake with the two straws and you guys could drink it together? The most exciting event occurred nearly right after the missing members of Fairytale had returned at the Grey Magic Games. A lot of members who I hadn't really had contact with were fighting, and let me say, they were pretty amazing. I was proud to be the one to keep their floors free of dust. For the rest of us who weren't part of the competition, we celebrated hard in the stands. I remember being high in the air with the roars of festivity reverberating down my shaft. It was a glorious moment where I felt like more than a broom. It was a moment where I felt like one of them. It was the best feeling of my carved life. This, of course, is in the event of neglecting all the stuff that I went down afterwards with dragons and everything. But let's not get into that right now. Anyway, nothing really changed after that. Where Max was, I was, unless he was on a mission. When he was on a mission, I was safely in his room, where I became good friends with the lamp on his night table. I only saw the dustpan from time to time when we cleaned together, though instead of catching up, it opted to complain about how annoying the wash bucket was becoming, and I hardly ever got to see the mop anymore. I suppose it would be rather hurtful for them to say that I didn't miss him much, but it was true. Being with Max was the most wonderful thing that could ever happen to me. So, do these things have feelings? Like, is it like a night at the museum kind of thing? I'm confused, but this is hilarious, so I don't care. I didn't know how long his attachment to me went on, but it went on for a long time. One day, the strangest thing happened. Max forgot me at the guild. When he leaned me against the wall, it was something I didn't even take note of. Humans need their hands for things, and Max put me aside often. The difference was, he always came back for me until that night. I didn't know where he'd gone, or what he was doing, and I didn't know that I should worry because nobody else seemed to be concerned for him. Still, I was scared. He'd never forgotten me before. How could he now? Oh, what are you doing here, Max? Mira asked when she spotted me. I really wanted to tell her I didn't know that Max had forgotten me, but I kind of still had problems in that area. So Mira Jane, the kind soul that she is, picked me up and brought me home. And I don't mean the Max's house. I mean the closet. It was the place I hadn't been in such a long time. That it was strange to be in such a dark and dank place again, and I almost felt like I didn't belong. Even when the dustpan, bucket, and mop greeted me with such enthusiasm, I couldn't feel glad to be there. I didn't fit with all the other cleaning supplies anymore. I belonged with Max. Max never came to retrieve me. In fact, Mary Jane was the only person I really had contact with since that night that he'd forgotten me as she swept the floor every day with a smile. All he, all I could do was miss him and miss being in his room, though I do have to say that some interesting things happened while I was in the closet. You know that small girl, Wendy? Yeah, she broke a cup and was so ashamed that she hid the pieces in the wash bucket, apparently forgetting that she was part of the guild that shattered things a lot bigger than a tiny cup on a daily basis without batting an eye. Oh, that sounds like something she would do. The dragon slayer was so cute, she kept coming back to the closet every day to stare at the broken glass and feel guilty until Mira Jane popped up behind her and found out what happened. Needless to say, Wendy had needed a lot of reassurance to get it into her head that breaking a cup was nothing to feel bad about. Master's grandson Loxus came to the closet once in a while to think. He turned the bucket upside down and made a seat for himself, often contemplating things for hours at a time. I think he liked the silence that the walls brought here. I have to say, though, he wasn't exactly the most riveting guest. He could sit the same way for the entire time he was there and hardly ever changed his facial expression from that stoic look. Occasionally he would smirk, but most of the time his visage was serious and stony. I seriously couldn't tell you what I thought he was thinking about because I honestly had no idea. The only time he really amused me was when he was trying to leave without getting caught. Mir was usually behind the bar, very close to the closet, so he was always on the lookout for her. His best visit was probably when he opened the door and Lasana was standing right there. Laxus slammed the door shut so fast while taking a step back that he slipped on the wet mop, landed on with his behind in the bucket, and knocked over a container of cleaning solution that ended up pooling underneath his body. That was a great day, I gotta say. Hope that didn't hurt him or something. Now, the most interesting thing that happened was the night when two drunk people came stumbling into the closet. One of them I recognized as Natsu, the reckless dragon slayer who had gotten Max in trouble that day that I met him. The other one, I think her name is Lucy. She was one of the girls Max hadn't seen the breast of but wanted to. Well, regardless of who they were a male and a female, and they were making out in my closet. Lucy's back even hit me and knocked me to the ground, which I did not appreciate at all. The only reason I wasn't so irritated afterwards was because they were so drunk and caught up in their activities that they didn't notice or anything around them. I won't go into details, but when they were done, the closet was a mess. Human affection was a strange thing. Okay, that's more points for Nalu in there. More points for this. Although all of these things were rather amusing, it didn't take away from the loneliness I felt without Max around. Even after parties, he wasn't the one who swept anymore. It was always Mira or some boy named Romeo who really liked to talk about his dad and his best friend Wendy. There was nothing wrong with them really. I enjoyed being with them, but I missed Max so badly. I just wanted to be in his hands again, trying to dance with him and listening to his soothing voice. Max. Max. Ah, got a sweep, Romeo exclaimed, grabbing me from the dark closet with enthusiasm. He wasn't so bad, but his singing voice wasn't exactly something to jam to on a nice summer day. Feeling weary and sad, I succumbed to just doing my job instead of yearning for fun Max used to bring me. I gathered the dirt into one small area, and Romeo left me by the counter while he scurried off to get the dustpan. And then I saw him. Max! Max! But he wasn't alone. The man I wanted to be mine had found a new partner to enjoy life with. She was a brunette, thin and tall, just like me, except not like me because she was human. She could reach out and hold him, laugh at his punny jokes, and likely had nice breasts he could look at. She made him smile. She she made him happy. What in the world was the dustpan doing behind the mop anyway? Romeo seemed to think aloud as he took me from the counter. but I wasn't focusing on what kinds of things my fellow inanimate objects have been up to. I watched Max leave the guild with her, a huge grin on his face. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was leaving me behind again. Long ago, he said that it was strange to feel attached to a broom, and I had told myself that it was true while reminding myself that I was a broom. And so I told myself the same thing again because it was the truth. He was a man, and I was a broom. So I let go because it was the proper thing to do. And just as I was in the beginning of this story, I am but a broom that sweeps. There is one difference, though. Today, I am a broom that knows the feeling of loss and regret, understanding that the love I had felt between us was one that never should have existed in the first place. Wow. So, this person created a story from the broom's perspective where the broom fell in love with Max, but Max moved on. It's a phenomenal story written wise, and the story is actually really good. It makes a lot of sense, like trying to really kind of makes a lot of sense and ties a lot of loose ends together. It's just so damn funny, and I'm not sure if it was meant to be funny because they're talking about a broom. Oh, well, yeah, it says humor, so it was supposed to be funny. I mean, honestly, I was laughing at this because it's hilarious, just like how serious this was for a broom. It's amazing, and I love this story. Oh God, I can't wait to read another one of these because I think there's like more of these, but this is the first one that showed up when I Googled Max X Broom. So that's gonna do it for now. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the month, which doesn't seem likely unless 871 people want to just subscribe to my channel. If you know 871 people that want to do that, please tell them to do that. I would appreciate it. But anyway, stay beautiful, my friends, because I most certainly am not going to do that for you.